Okay, everyone. It is impossible to start talking about liberalism and what it means and where it came from without speaking about this man that you can see in the centre of the screen, John Locke. This is going to be an introduction into him and the world that he lived in. There's going to be a little bit of history in there, a little bit of science, and a little bit of philosophy as well. So if you are studying history or ethics at A level, some of these things will either already be relevant to you or they will become relevant. So a lot of the British history I talk about, you will study, if you do study history, in year 13. John Locke was an English thinker in the 17th century. In the 1680s, he was exiled from England. He was banished. And that's because he was an exclusionist. And what he wanted to do was stop this man, James II, becoming the King of England. Purely and simply for the fact that he was a Catholic. Now, at the time, it was believed that a Catholic monarch would bring absolutist rule, which would be the total power of the king over his own people. So by trying to exclude James II from taking the throne, he was put in exile. He's also a Protestant. So let's talk about the Reformation for a minute. Liberalism stemmed from the Protestant Reformation, and that's because the Reformation and the Protestant faith was brought about by the believer having a closer relationship and an immediate relationship themselves with God. It questioned the fact that your salvation can only be achieved through other people, with the Pope as the supreme head of the church. The Protestant Reformation questioned that, and you could have an individual relationship with God. What liberals do, like John Locke, is they take that idea that you question the accepted thinking of the time and apply it to politics. Now, at the time, in the 17th century, and Year 12 historians, you will know about this already, there is a concept known as the divine right of kings. Now, the divine right of kings basically said that the king could do anything that they so chose because it is God that has chosen them. So the king can behave in any way that they choose. Now, John Locke doesn't necessarily like that idea, and he doesn't like the idea that we cannot question the supremacy of the monarch over their own people. Now, today, when we talk about liberal ideas, you would think that it's a little bit boring and not very controversial. But in the 17th century, when religion is so important in people's lives, and to question the king was an act of treason, this is a revolution in politics. It is challenging centuries of accepted thought that the king is king because God wanted it that way, and what the king says as God's voice on earth, what the king says goes. Okay, so in the book, The Two Treatises of Government, written in 1690, the reason it's two treatises is, on the one hand, it is basically providing a reason for a huge event in British politics. That's quite short. The second treatise of government, the second part of this book, lays out the way that John Locke views the world. 2 years before this is published, we have the Glorious Revolution in British politics. Now, the Glorious Revolution is actually an invasion. Remember this guy from before, James II? Well, he does become king despite Locke's wishes. But roughly 5 years or so into his reign, a group of leading British noblemen send a letter to the Dutch King William of Orange, who is also James's nephew and son-in-law. Weird, yeah, I know, but that's the way royal families at the time worked. William of Orange receives this letter from these British politicians, and they beg him to come and save the English people from James II, because not only was this a Catholic monarch that was imposing Catholicism on all the British people, but they believed that he wanted complete and total power over the British people as well. So they send this letter begging William to come and rescue the people, and he does. So this is actually an invasion at the invitation of a small group of British politicians, but James flees, James leaves the country, and Protestants, rather than call this an invasion, call it a glorious revolution where the country is rescued from a tyrant, and a Catholic no less as well. Another thing that's going on at the time is the Enlightenment. Now, the Enlightenment isn't just a movement in politics. It began in the 17th century, and it was a pan-European movement. The ideas of the Reformation came from Italy, from France, from Germany, from England. It came from right across the continent. It concerned areas of science, art, literature, religion, as well as politics. And the whole concept behind the Enlightenment, you can see there it says the age of reason. The Enlightenment movement was focused on the idea of reason and evidence as the sources of knowledge. Now, you cannot believe something to be true unless you have good reason or prior knowledge of it happening. And so, religious, political, and scientific norms were questioned at this time. For example, the concept of the four humours had existed for some time, and bloodletting was quite a common practice in science. It was often considered that someone could have too much blood or bad blood in their system, and by simply letting blood out of the body, you could cure an illness. And Enlightenment thinkers began to challenge that medical thinking because they wanted to know if there was reason or evidence to suggest that it worked. In politics, it was questioning accepted ideas about who is in charge and who should be in charge. So this idea of the divine right of kings, the idea that the king is God's representative on earth, and that is the case because the king says so, that is challenged. People want to see good reason for that. Now, that doesn't mean that liberals are these... it's very revolutionary, but it doesn't mean that liberals are anarchists, that they don't want any government at all. What they believe, and what John Locke believes, is in a theory called mechanistic theory. John Locke believes that human beings have the ability to come up with their own system of making things work. Because we are rational human beings, because we have the power of logic and calculation, we can decide what is right for us. So most basically, for John Locke, we are rational. When allowed to, we make the right decisions for ourselves. With this in mind, John Locke believes that humans can build their own political systems for themselves. Rather than being told who is in charge, and they are in charge because God says so, they can create their own system of government. And that is what is known as mechanistic theory. Using that as your background for John Locke, what I'd like you to do is I'd like you now to use pages 9 to 12 of your textbook and complete the notes on the document that says Liberalism and Introduction. Some on the front page are notes from me. All you need to do on the front page is tell me what the Enlightenment was and what mechanistic theory is. On page 2, you need to outline the 4 key findings of John Locke's book, The Two Treatises of Government. The first one is government by consent, the idea that we give our consent to those in charge, and they behave because we give them consent. They behave in a way that suits the majority of us. The belief in natural laws, liberties and rights. So put simply for that one, for number 2, not to murder is a natural law. We know instinctively as human beings that to take another life is irrational, is not going to help anybody achieve their full potential. We don't need a law against murder to know that murder is wrong. Number 3, social contract theory. The idea of a social contract is that we give consent to the governed, they rule as long as we give our consent. It's not a physical contract that you sign. You don't sign to say the government has the right to tax me, but just by taking part in that government, you are giving the government your consent. So social contract is this implicit agreement between those in charge and your everyday citizens. And if the ruler breaks that contract, the citizens have the right to leave that state and to form a new one. And then finally, number 4, limited government and the separation of powers. That final thing is the idea that liberals are very suspicious of government, and they're suspicious of government because in the past kings have behaved in ways that they see fit. James II, for example. So liberals are suspicious of government because of how powerful they can be. They want to limit the powers of the government and separate the lawmakers from those that introduce the law and are in charge of the law. So those are the 4 key findings of John Locke. Like I said, use pages 9 to 12. And once you've done the tasks on the first page, I want you to summarise what those 4 key findings were.